Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Reckless Friday. And surprise, it's the Monday crew on a Friday. I was tempted to see if I bring the Reckless, our sponsor, Reckless Coffee Roasters, and makes a Reckless Friday. But then I'm like, Mitush is showing up. Do I bring Grumpy? Grumpy was like, Mitush is here. I was like, no, buddy, it's Friday. Sorry. So I left him in the cupboard. What's happening?
I figured I would try to do my best a non-impersonation and just hit it with the reckless from the get-go. I plan on not speaking too much about Darwin and Tiago. I'm not as closely connected, but I'll do my best to fill in while those guys are away.
Yes, I mean, as you guys know, we changed his plans and everything, but Anana's traveling. He's out in Egypt, I believe, right now. And then on Wednesday, you could tell he was really sick when I was the positive one and he was the negative one on the show. So you knew there was something really wrong with John. And unfortunately, his illness has gotten worse to the point where we had to call the subs in. And who better than Matush since we missed Monday? Alan says it's cold here in Austin, 36. That is cold, actually, because it's better here, right?
Yeah, I was going to
say. I know we're a couple
of
hours away from each other, but I know how the weather is over there.
It's 36 exactly here as well.
Yeah, I think we know. Anan is looking for Thiago's Egyptian cousin out there to bring him back, or Nunes' Egyptian cousin to bring it back. But okay. So a lot to talk to. Obviously, well, you did the hard work and put it behind you. I was going to put it on the screen, but what the hell is going on? Top of the league, all games even. West Ham, and we are finishing 2023 at the top of the table. How about the Mapples?
You know what? I think this was it was like, they talk about chess, right? You'll be 3-4 moves ahead. I think the ultimate chess move here was not being a top on Christmas specifically, but then being a top at the end of the year. So you avoid the Christmas curse, and you said, to hell with that. Let's drop points there. We know West Ham's going to take care of Arsenal, right? Who thought any differently? And then we'll just be a top at the end of the year and go from there. No, but it's annoyingly exciting because we keep going back to if it happens, it's kind of cool, but we are rebuilding, so let's sort of temper our expectations. But it's getting to that point where the expectations could turn into disappointment. I guess my question to you would be, at what point in the season, if we see a fall off of it, if we don't win the league, at what point in the year does it become disappointment versus, just glad that we kind of got here?
Good question. I feel like if it happens in like April or something like that, then you would consider disappointment, right? This January is kind of weird. With obviously both Mo and Endo leaving, but some guys coming back. So we'll talk about that in the press conference. He mentioned something about, Maka coming back, and Thiago might even train. You never know, and stuff like that. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, I like how he worded that, by the way. As I was reading it, I'm like, hold on, we got to read this quote for the sake of Anan. He said, I think Thiago will at one point be in team training. So whatever the hell that means. But Brian says March, April too. I think that's where I'm at, because I think if you get to that point, and by then, I don't know if you'll get somebody else in January or, but at least everybody will be back, Mo will be back, Endo will be back and stuff like that. I think if you're still in the race then and you lose out, you get disappointed. But I'm really, really torn about this because, Brian even says, as critical as we have been, we only have one loss this season, which is the shady one against Tottenham. And really, we've lost some, what we would consider silly points that they should not have probably been lost. Having said that, we have won some games we had no business of winning, like the Newcastle game, the Crystal Palace game, and stuff like that. So I guess those even each other out. But I feel weird where it's like a pleasant surprise more than I do not get. We got this feeling. Is that because we started with such low expectations, so it's kind of hard to balance things out?
Probably, yeah. And maybe we should start with low expectations every year and just have every pleasant surprise. Oh, we're gonna finish in fifth this year. Like, what are we talking about, guys? And then come around, you know, smash the entire league. You don't lose a game the whole season, kind of deal. I think, if anything, I think it's just so exciting for the future more than anything, because then you get to kind of see how this could evolve into the next iteration of what this team could be. Obviously, there are still a few missing pieces I think that could be worked on. There's a lot of good short-term options right now, but not necessarily great long-term options. You know, the replacing Mo is going to be a big talking point over the next couple of years. Having a younger six in there is going to be a talking point for the next couple of years. Having a left back and a center back is going to be a talking point, right? So, like, we're not going to be done with this for a bit, but yeah, I think maybe part of it is the expectations side of it. And if we had come in thinking like, hey, we should be bossing the league, there should be a bigger gap between us and whoever's after us, then there could be more disappointment on our end, because it's tough to know how the season's going to go. What I really love is that we all year have been talking about how poor we have been defensively, just kind of leaking everything back there and sort of offering too many big chances. But we've conceded the least goals in the league this entire year, and so it's just a weird thing to look at and hear compared to what we've been saying, compared to what the actual stats are. It's a good feeling.
It is so weird. I mean, I think that's why, like, I am so lost. And Ryan says it blows me away that you still have pundits like the two Robbies that don't seem as real contenders. And I don't know if that's, like, in some ways that's good. Let's roll with that. You know,
They're always wrong, so
go under the radar. But I think it also, I don't know, the team doesn't pass the eye test in most cases as you watch them, right?
Right.
Or the old Liverpool, let's say, set the bar so high that what we see now, even though it's a winning Liverpool side, like, it's not passing the eye test because you don't have the front three lighting up the world. You don't have as dominant of a midfield winning every ball, and you don't have four people chasing the ball at all times and stuff like that. It's kind of like things are slightly different, but maybe it's more result oriented. I find it hard to tell, but it's almost like I can't blame the two Robbies because I look at this team and I look at the standings and I'm like, wait, what? Because I don't even see how it happened.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And we've been so accustomed to seeing what perfection needs to be in the league to at least have a chance to win it, that anything less than perfection is going to be disappointing. When in reality, that we've talked about before, all of the seasons that we lost the league, the last six, well, most of them the last 6 years, you'd win it almost any other year before then, right? So it's really a points thing at the end of the year, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it works, and that's what we've been used to. Like you said, that's what we got used to seeing 99-point seasons, 98-point seasons. So now having a season when you're on pace for 84 points, it seems awful, but in most cases that wins you the league. So yeah, it's one of those. It's part of our expectations, right? I think Brian mentioned, we've talked about this a lot, is that this is a rebuilding season. So I think even that going forward, it's something that we have to always consider. And I think that was part of my question: is at what point do we stop thinking so much rebuilding and just start thinking contending? And yeah, like I think what you said is late. I think late March, early April is probably a good indicator of that.
Because by then I feel like, you have the League Cup resolved, you have more of an understanding of your fixtures remaining and stuff like that. And I almost feel like this team or any club team does better when they're kind of like on a roll and having games. As much as he complains about them, I feel like this team does better when they play every 3-4 days and then they get into a rhythm as opposed to waiting all week. I feel like that's what happened to Arsenal last year, where they could wait a whole week to take on Bournemouth or somebody, and then that builds the pressure all week, especially when you're in a title race. So I guess that's like the flip side of it. Chris, by the way, says we're not dominating games, but we get behind and work on coming back the rest of the game. And maybe that's another thing. Like, they were like, I know, like, anytime like we consider like Liverpool has the most points from like losing positions, I'm like, is that something to like really brag about? Because that's because we've always given the first goal in most of these games more than anything else. So I guess the question is, do we keep this going in the manner that we've seen it? Like this is more like a results oriented team. So it might not always pass the eye test, but they're going to grind out the results. More importantly, when the time hits, is the new gang going to show its difference now? We have a lot of people on the squad right now, even though with the rebuild and stuff, that are used to the title chase, the stress, that Arsenal, for example, was not, I thought, last year, like that stress of, got to win the game, got to get results and stuff like that. Do you think that will be an issue down the road with more new characters in there, especially in midfield?
There could be a little bit. I think the one advantage that we might have in the new guys that we have that haven't really tasted the chase before is that they are hungry for a title themselves and having something. There's a good, the good core of the team that have a few of those titles, a few of the trophies all throughout the last 5-6 years. So I think it's nice because you have that hunger for those trophies, but you also have in these newer guys, you don't have they're not inexperienced so much because they're experienced in other capacities. Like you have McAllister, who has won a World Cup, right? You have Endo, who captains his international side. You have Soboslai that captains his international side. I think those are really important traits to look at when you are in a title chase, because it's going to come down to character and to personality on the pitch. And at the end of the day, I think that those stronger characters, those guys who are able to be captains, who are able to lead on and off the pitch, not just club level, but international level, have a huge advantage versus guys who just are on the team and are on their international team and don't have much more responsibility outside from that.
Yeah, I think that does help, right? That's a good point. Like having these guys captain their team and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, you look at maybe like some Asian Cup titles or something like that. But like the pressure of, I don't know, being the captain of the national team of Hungary, and I'm not putting Hungary down as as somebody from Turkey. I mean, how it is being from Poland. The national team aspirations are just not the same. It's not like they're playing. Yes, it's top level. There's a lot of stress, a lot on the stake. Qualifying, advancing, blah blah blah. But it's not like our boys are sadly used to playing like World Cup finals or semifinals or something like that, where the bar is raised even further in terms of like stress level and I guess like the good or minus like that can come off of it. I mean, Brian says 3 points is 3 points no matter how we get them. I just need any more heart palpitation. Yeah, I've given up on that because I feel like that's the kind of year the entire year is going to be. That keep your cardiologists on that quick dial there.
With what we've experienced in the first half of the season, it only gets worse in the second half. Like, I mean, because you get closer and closer to the end, and it feels just that much tighter and harder. So yeah, good luck not wanting any more of those heart palpitations. They're going to come in a lot quicker and a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I was thinking about this, like before we started, like last night. I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about 2023. We'll look at the 2024 and stuff like that. It is the last show of the year on American Scouser over here. Next time we're here is going to be Monday the 1st, where we have like a game day and obviously the Monday night podcast and stuff. But mind you, yes, we should probably announce that as well. No morning show next week. I'll be out and about traveling in Vegas. Oh, don't even like you were going to show up on New Year's Day in the morning or something like that. Don't even go there.
I go to bed at like 11.
No. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, no morning show next week, but everything else will be on point. So I was like, hey, we'll do like a recap. I'm thinking about 2023, and obviously, as you are my age, all these years become a blur anyway. You wouldn't know yet. Don't be freaking nodding and shit. You have no idea what I'm talking about. But like, how do you even view the entire 2023? Like when you look, I was like, man, it was like so weird because we had that resurgence early in the year, but still fell short, but at least gave you a better taste in your mouth to end the season. And then obviously this season begins. You had a really crazy summer. Like we got this guy. No, maybe we didn't. 3 more days, 2 more days, 1 more day. Nope, we didn't get him and stuff like that. So how do you view like 2023 as a whole?
it was an emotional roller coaster that I didn't ask for, and that I had to take part in, unfortunately. But I mean, that's just football, right? I mean, I think Kazi has said it before. Football it's about being in it. It's about the emotions. It's about just kind of living it day to day and enjoying every aspect of it. And I think that ultimately looking back, I look back and it's a fun time to look back on. While it was a little bit frustrating to see the way that things ended last year, I think with the signings from the summer and everything that was going on, obviously, not getting Bellingham and not getting Caicedo and having some of these names thrown around, that gave you a little bit more excitement. But then, finding Endo and spending a tenth of what you would have spent on him for Caicedo and him doing just as good of a job in recent weeks, it's one of those things that you look back on and you can enjoy. You look back on the quote of Klopp saying, just give Endo some time, you're going to love him. I promise you're going to love him. And you go, no, I mean, he's just saying that because he's a new signing. He's just, you have to be nice about it. But you watch that interview, you go, yeah, I mean, he knew what he was scouting. He knew who he was bringing in. And so I think ultimately I look back on those little moments of the year and just enjoy kind of the ride that we've been on, and hopefully continue to be on. And I think, like we've said before, it's just an exciting element to have in a team with so many likable players, right? Because we could be really good, but have a lot of unlikable players. And I think there's a difference between following a club and really appreciating the integrity of the team and appreciating the character of the team and the character of the players. And then there's following a club for the sake of following a club. And then there's following a club and having to put up with players and coaches and ownership that isn't necessarily great. So I think overall, just kind of grateful that we have the club that we have with the players that we have and the mentality that we have and the integrity that we have and all that all together.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I was trying, as you're saying that, I'm trying to think if, I mean, there have been guys, who play for the team you support that you kind of like cringe as you like root for them and stuff, right? Like it's hard to root for and things like that. And I know sometimes winning helps that, right? A winning team automatically becomes a bit more likable than obviously a team that's struggling, because there's more frustration involved. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe, I mean, it's the club way and it's the way we recruit and stuff like that. I mean, that has not been an issue for me almost like since Klopp's arrival and since, we had incomings from Klopp. I mean, there have been players where, like I've been critical of, or I'm not as big on their play and stuff like that. But in terms of like, can't think of a player that has been hard to root for. Even, I mean, obviously we're going to root for him because they're wearing the jersey. But even without it, it's kind of like been a very, very likable team overall. Win or lose.
Yeah, you still end up wanting to see how they're doing outside, right? Like they'll leave and you go, I wonder what they're up to right now. Whereas before, it's like, I'm so happy I never have to hear that name again. I never have to Google that name. Obviously, there's some players maybe like Keita, that we don't necessarily check up on every once in a while, but he's hurt, so there's no point in checking up on him because he's not fit enough to play ever.
Before you check up on him, Ox is also hurt too.
Ox is also out for the rest of the year. So, but we checked up on him, because he's Ox. And so I think that's a testament to who you bring in, is what you do and what you think about them and what you talk about them after they leave.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Ox, for example, I mean, I'll be honest, like, and it's not an inside joke. I mean, if you've been following AmericanScouser for a while, you know that we always talk about a good opportunity for Ox that I would throw in left and right. But, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, I didn't keep track of him, but he happens to play at Besiktas in Turkey. So it's almost like that. So I was like, oh, he's out again, kind of a thing. He's having surgery. They froze his contract so they can sign another foreign player and stuff like that. Keita and Ox, never thought that was possible. Right? Yeah, I mean, it's even like Keita. I think we were maybe disappointed with the outcome because we had higher expectations, but I don't think it was like we haven't had a player I can't recall in recent years that it was like good riddance when they left.
Right. Yeah. Right? And that's yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe the last one was Balotelli for me, honestly. I can't think of Maybe
Yeah, I think so.
maybe Benteke. I don't know. That could be. Oh well, maybe Klein. No,
Klein, really?
no. Klein was fine. Klein was fine.
Klein.
I think.
He
I,
passed.
I think it's more so the stories that came out about Klein afterwards. I
Yeah,
look
yeah, yeah.
back and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I agree with that because but I mean, to be fair, when I did hear him, I was like, wait, what, really? And stuff. And that just shows that, it wasn't like, oh, well, couldn't see that coming or something like that. So that's a total different ordeal. So, okay. So we talked about Liverpool's 2023. Yeah, it was kind of like a roller coaster of a year. I think every year is part of being a Liverpool fan. But I mean, I agree with what you're saying. If you don't have the downs, the ups are not as much fun. So you kind of, as sad as it is, you always have to have, no way. No way. Minamino, really? Good riddance? Come on, man. The guy helped us win a cup. Philip is in the UK afternoon. Yes, it is. What do we have? Is it 7 hours now?
I don't know. I don't
I don't know if
care.
it's 7 or 6 still, because I don't know if they bounce back and forth. I know, I think they do bounce back and forth. I think it's only Turkey that has given up on this daylight savings thing. They're like, you know what? We're not changing shit. So
I
sometimes
know.
we're like 9, sometimes we're 8.
I know Poland is 7 right now, but yeah, like you said, I don't know if it changed in England as well.
I'm sure
So
that's why we would give up on this daylight savings thing, get on a set schedule over here, so we don't have to freaking bounce back and forth and stuff like that. But okay, he does say just kidding. UFS, he was poisonous. I will give Brian that. That could be one name, but we're talking a long time now though. So that's a good thing overall. But that's 2023 for Liverpool. Yeah, up and down, but fun overall, I think. And started out in like a dismal, extremely depressing mode, but it has ended with a shockingly pleasant. And as you can see behind you in the standings over there, so I'll take the graphic going up. For Mateusz, it has been a huge year though. 2023. Do tell.
personally,
Yeah.
well, I got to be on a Friday morning show.
Squeeze that in on the last day, baby.
Get in there.
Well, quite the
John and
highlight.
on.
Quite the highlight, yes.
Yeah, no, it was a good year. I got married. Work promotion, all that fun stuff. So it was a good year.
The
I
year of
definitely.
Mateusz. Are you going to go back, look back on 2023 and be like, man, 2023, what a year that was?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Right?
overall,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those years that you look back on and go, yeah, there was a lot that happened that year, and I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that I had to spend with all the people that I could, and obviously being here and being able to do this and kind of having a nice release from life, even if it is just an hour a week, right? I think sometimes what's nice about this community and doing shows like this and with everyone in the comments, being part of the conversation, it's a little release for all of us together, and to kind of come into this world for a bit and then not really worry about anything else that's going on. I've been pretty fortunate that I haven't had to have things to worry about per se, but in the event that anything does happen like that, it's nice that we can come together and talk about something that in the end, for most people, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't have that much of an impact on your life specifically, like tangibly, but emotionally, it's nice to have that because it provides moments like this, provides years like this, and so yeah, for that I am grateful.
Yeah, I think, it becomes therapy at some stage, right? If things are going south, it becomes therapy. And then you kind of like groan and whine and moan together, and then you start laughing about it, and it ends differently. And yeah, it is like a escape. I don't know if people feel the same way because they can't escape from us when they turn it on, but it is kind of like an escape from reality into the like our weird world that we got going over here. But yeah, 2023, I was like thinking about this, and once again, Brian says we're old, so we talk about weather and time change. And yeah, welcome to the club, by the way. So you're joining that club talking about the time change and stuff. But yeah, as you get older, these years do get a bit more blurrier. But yeah, we became like empty nesters this year. So Layla's in college now too. Otherwise, yeah, it's been like a good year. I would say 2023. I don't know if I'm gonna like, it's gonna have a highlight on it and go back to it, but yes, and I mean, I think it's been a huge year for American Scouser. Actually, we've had like, made huge strides and a lot of great new contributors, writing, editing, and social media side and stuff like that, and we do have a lot more coming, by the way. We have like new people joining us with the new year, a couple of new shows, a couple of new things we're starting and stuff like that. So if you want to get involved, even if it's just joining us for the pre-match, post-match, joining us live to give your take for a few minutes, just shoot us a message. Always looking for new contributors as we have a lot planned moving forward. So 2024 should be huge. Let's start with Liverpool. 2024, I guess, like, let's go with the season. It's kind of unfair to look at fall. What is a freaking awesome year for you? Or what will you settle for? I think winning
Oh,
everything would be the awesome
I was
year.
gonna say the awesome year is
Yeah,
gonna be.
I almost set that beach ball up, but what would be a year that you would be content with?
I think. I think one trophy would be enough to be content with, given what the expectations were coming into this season. If you ask me again in February, and we take a look at where we are and what the results against Fulham was in the league, and how we play against Arsenal in the FA Cup, and Fulham in the League Cup, and Arsenal in the FA Cup, and if both of those are positive results, then my content meter will move up to 2 trophies. Because at that point, you're in the final, you're either playing Middlesbrough or Chelsea, right? So it's like
What's the
you
difference?
you kind of expect that. And then the FA Cup, obviously, there's still a little bit ways to go there. But if you continue to climb down this path, the closer we get, the content level starts to rise. I don't think it'll go past 2. I think having the taste of 4 a couple years ago, and then the harsh disappointment of having just 2 of those 4 really stung for a lot longer than it should have, I think. And so I don't want to put that on myself again. So I think at the highest point, 1 would definitely be nice.
Yeah, Ryan says 1 trophy, but kind of expect 2. And then he thinks so. I want to talk about the FA first of all, but let's go back to the 1 trophy, but kind of expect 2. I think if you asked me 3 months ago, I would probably say the same thing: 1 trophy, but kind of expect 2. I feel like, I don't know, because of the table behind you, um, the bar is higher now. I almost feel like there should be 2 trophies or the big boy in the Premier League title. Obviously, that would eliminate the others, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but maybe Ryan is on board with me over here too. But I almost feel like I'm totally cool with sacrificing the FA Cup.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe because of the table
for
behind you.
for what? For the Premier League.
I mean, for everything else in the grand
Okay.
scheme of things. Like, it's maybe because of the matchup already being hard. And with the League Cup, normally I'd be like, it's a League Cup. But it looked like, and we talked about this, in our last matchup against West Ham, like when we were trying to figure out, who should start, do we rest people, blah, blah, blah. It was more like, man, it's there to be taken, like with the teams left in it. So why not just go get it? And we talked about how sometimes getting that trophy middle of the season can kind of like bump you up to win more trophies and stuff like that. So I think now I'm in for the EFL Cup, even though it does, I guess, mean less than the FA Cup history, blah blah blah. But I'm totally okay with sacrificing the FA Cup for the good of rotation, keeping people healthy, and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to risk stuff just for an FA Cup game, even though I feel like we probably will.
That's fair, and especially with like you said, with where you're at in the League Cup and with who's left, it wouldn't make sense to sacrifice that because you only have 3 games left in that competition, and 2 of them are against Fulham, right? So you don't want to take the unnecessary risk of trying to drop any of that because it's like you said, it's there for the taking. So yeah, I feel like if you are going to sacrifice any competition, the FA Cup would be the one to go. I mean, I know we've got Arsenal away, and I don't know. I feel. I think I said this 2 weeks ago. I was less nervous for Arsenal than I was for Man United, and I think that's still the case. I don't really. I feel like it doesn't matter who we put out there, we're going to get a good game, and I think there's a good possibility that once you knock out Arsenal, there's not going to be much left after that. That's another way to look at it. But the FA Cup is if you knock out Arsenal, you knock out one of the top dogs that that you thought potentially you would see down the road, right? So if you take them out now, that also clears the path. So we're kind of stuck in that weird, like you mentioned earlier, about having consistent games because that's when this club seems like they're really pushing or really hitting on all cylinders versus having just enough rest where you don't want to override your guys.
I think the big thing about the FA Cup now is, I don't know, like the way Arsenal is. I was watching some Arsenal TV yesterday to see like where their fans are at in terms of, are they like panicking already, or are they still like, ah, this shit happens, kind of an ordeal and stuff like that. Trying to get like a gauge with Arsenal TV is probably not a good place to get a gauge. That's a different story. But I don't know if psychologically it would be huge to knock them out of the FA Cup to a team that's kind of already a little rattled. Like you can see Arteta's Lego heads like almost coming off. So I don't know if it would be a huge morale boost for us to kind of like knock them out of that too. And they're like, man, we're just not good enough, not yet, as opposed to them knocking us out and saying like, see, we're still the best team in the league. And maybe that carry over to the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
Yeah, no, because I think that's a good point. Because if you knock them out of the FA Cup, I mean, you could play devil's advocate and go, well, if you knock them out of the FA Cup, they're going to want to come for the league that much harder. But you could also say, if you knock them out of the FA Cup, you really sour that mood of that club so much that second place, then you're not even looking at them. I think ultimately most of our fans, we're still looking over our shoulder for City. We're not looking over our shoulder for Arsenal. So by knocking them out of the FA Cup and even just like dampening that mood even more, it might even be better for the league overall because then you just have another club that's not going to challenge you for the league.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get knowing the team. I think like I wouldn't think that if it was City,
right?
Because I think they're a lot more stronger mentally than this Arsenal team is, especially after what they went through last year. They only want. I mean, we've all been on teams where if things are not going well, it doesn't take a whole lot for you to think, oh shit, here we go again. And then there's the reverse, right? If things are going well, you're like, it's going to turn around. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing kind of thing. And I feel like, City is more the latter, whereas Arsenal is more like, would be a lot easier to panic. There was Arteta out was trending yesterday. Like, how the hell is that even a thing, by the way? But you can say, I mean, that alone shows you're not going to get Pep out, even if they lost to Everton, like, for example, a week ago. It's just not a thing. It's not even considered. It's not even like a subplot. Whereas I feel like Arsenal can come up with these destructive subplots by themselves if like a couple of things go south, like losing in the FA Cup.
But we did have, to be fair, a moment in our history the last couple of years where there was a big Klopp out brigade.
Yeah, it was like what
was out there?
What maybe this time last year?
Yeah, it was. It was. So, all it takes for something to be trending is I don't know 5,000-6,000 people, and 5,000-6,000 Arsenal fans, 5,000-6,000 Liverpool fans, whatever the number is. Once you get that going, then you can see that trending. So I don't know if it's a general feeling amongst the club overall. But I do agree that mentally, I don't think they're quite there. You would think that losing the way they did last year would kind of help their case this year, kind of like what we went through several years ago. But you just don't see the difference there. And I think maybe part of it is just, I think Brian talking about their midfield. Outside of Odegaard right now, Rice, he's been okay, but he hasn't been $120 million Declan Rice that you expect him to be. He's had two game winning goals that have been great, but outside of that, there really hasn't been much to go off. And then their third midfielder, you can't even name who it is most times because you just don't see them having any impact on the game. So I think it's interesting because last year we were talking about how Arsenal was having had one of the best midfields in the league, and then this year now it's in this weird little rut. I think Odegaard is good enough to make up for some of those deficiencies, but he's obviously not good enough to take up all three positions.
Yes, and I think that's what he's almost like having to do. It felt like, and it's funny, like you watched that game yesterday, and I was like, man, this is like how biased fans can be. Like, you watch that game, West Ham against Arsenal, and I have stupid superstitions like this where I didn't even turn the game on when it was 1-0. I'm like, I'm not gonna, because the moment I turn it on, they'll score or something. Jesus' whiny face will be celebrating as I turn it on or something like that. So I turned it on at the very end, the last, like it was 2-0, the last, I think it was already like 90th or something like that. And you watch and you can see the frustration of them not being able to open up a defense. And the funny thing is, as Liverpool fans, we're like, man, West Ham really closed down and they defended well. But if they did that to us, we'd be like, we can't open.
They don't even play the game well. They don't play the game right. All they do is sit back and park the bus. They came in to park the bus, and that's what they did. Yes.
And then we would blame our guys for not being able to, like, we just can't play against the low block and stuff like that. But you can actually see Arsenal struggling with that as well, like trying to create against the low block. I mean, it's not as easy as it looks. You have to have like a way of going about it. That's why I liked our old way a lot better, to be honest with you. But we'll see what happens. I mean, January is a big month. So let me ask you that. With the transfer window and stuff like that, for the short term, what would make you content in terms of, yes, now we're in the title race? Like, do you want somebody coming in to really push you to the title race? Klopp, even if he shows up, even if he signs somebody on the first, they're probably not playing for, everybody will be back by the time that dude is regularly playing.
Right. So I think that's a good question. Ultimately, I think a left-footed center back or a left back that could deputize as a left-footed center back would be my dream signing. And I'm okay with everything else. There's so many people talking about the six, talking about Andre, talking about this and that. I don't think that's where we need to be at in the January window. I think what we have there is done. I think it's going to be between Endo and Mac when he's healthy. Maybe a little bit of Thiago eventually for FA Cup or something. If maybe. I don't want to say Thiago 3 times because if I do, Anand's going to show up behind me like Beetlejuice. So I'm going to make sure I don't mention the other name again. But yeah, it's I think everywhere else we're pretty solid. So left back, left-footed center back would make me really happy.
I agree. So if you have one signing, you're going with the left-footed center back kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I think Robertson's going to be back hopefully by the end of January is what it. We were looking for some sort of news. We haven't gotten much, but I'm hoping that by the end of January we have Robert Robertson back. I know a name that's been floating out there has been Anthony Robinson. He's interesting. He's got a big body to him, and he's really pacey. So I just don't know if he's the answer. And if you're going to buy someone that young, you kind of want him to be the long-term answer. And I don't know how much you want to invest in that. So I think it really depends on when Robertson's going to be back. If he's going to be back early January, then you have a little bit more breathing room and you kind of just look for some more center back depth. Because I think that's something that we're missing. Because if Konate goes down, we're fucked. He's good enough to rotate right now, but if he's down for good for a while, then you just have Van Dijk and Kwanzaa with Gomez as backup.
And Gomez is already backing up.
He's on the left.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the problem is you did sign Costa an extension. So getting another left back. I mean, I realize the extensions don't mean that much. Maybe it just guarantees that you're going to get something for him if you wanted to move him kind of thing. But, I mean, Robertson is getting up there in age. But I do feel like people have forgotten. He's been gone for so long. People have forgotten like the impact and how crushed we were when he went out. We were like, what are we going to do? And stuff like that. So people have kind of like forgotten it based on, I think, what we've been able to do. And I know, hey, I'll raise my hand. I was the first one to say, what the hell are we going to do? Because Costas was pretty darn brutal. Before he went out, like before Robertson went out, and actually after the first few games he came in, I mean, I kept saying like he looked as strong as like a 12-year-old, but right when he kind of turns around and kind of gets into the pace, and I think the biggest thing on that has been Van Dyke, and we see more of the old Van Dyke. I know, like Brian was talking about, Arsenal fans love doing this stuff. It's like, oh, Saka is better than Salah, and Saliba is better than Van Dyke, and stuff like that. I think we are seeing that in both cases. I mean, the old Van Dyke is never going to be the exact same old Van Dyke, but I think in terms of dominance and in terms of, calm as you like, I think we have the same guy pretty much back.
Yeah, the composure. You see, you don't have that weird feeling that you're watching him and it doesn't feel the same. I think that was a big thing during the time when he was coming back, because he just didn't look like he did. But now, just because he's going to be a little bit slower, but that just comes with age. But he, like we talked about, I think it was earlier in the year, if he can go the direction of Thiago Silva, where he just continues adjusting his game based on what he can do physically, he can play for another 4 or 5 years, and you can still get enough out of him. So, and that kind of, at that point, if he can play for another 4 or 5 years, then how important is a left-footed center back really right now? And it probably isn't, right? So it's weird, because you you want to feel ready to go for the next iteration, but you don't want to go too early, because then you're not going to stash someone on the bench that can get regular minutes elsewhere, because they're not going to want to play. And that it always goes back to we have to remember that these players coming in, you get to play for a great big club, but only if you get to play. If you come here to just sit on the bench and you're good enough to start for 17 out of the 20 teams in the Premier League, you're most likely not going to want to not see any playing time unless you're playing with the kids in the Carabao Cup. So we have to remember that you can't just bring in world-class players and stash them on the bench. It's not FIFA. You can't just build a team with 85 rated players everywhere. I mean, even City's depth is horrible. Like they don't have.
They have gone, yes.
Yeah, there were years, obviously, that it was better, but this year specifically, you take a look at that bench, and there's nothing coming from there. And when they're all healthy, like, you could argue that Doku and Grealish, having one of them come off the bench is really nice, but outside of that, you don't really have much left there. So, it's interesting to see what his comeback has been, what Van Dijk's comeback has been like, and it's really exciting to see what it could continue being, because he's probably not done for another few years.
And I think that's why I kind of like, I mean, I know people are always like, if you trust yourself, that's not how this works. Like, you don't change jobs if you're not guaranteed, certain things. You don't just be like, I trust myself, I'm sure I'll get promoted, and then take a huge pay cut. You want some kind of a guarantee, or at least a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I feel like the person that would have been ideal, and I really like his game, I know he's hurt right now, is like the Van der Ven, which we were linked to, but I guarantee you, one reason he would have picked Spurs, especially when all other things being equal, money and stuff like that, is the fact that he knew he was just going to walk in and start. And let's face it, you see it where you can use it as a stepping stone, and then sign for somebody else afterwards once you've proven yourself, and there's no doubt you're going there as a starter. So that's going to be the tricky thing, right? The Van Dijk resurgence almost, to me, kind of changes that left-sided center back thing, because I don't know if you're going to get somebody who is young and promising unless they also have experience playing the right side, because you can tell Van Dijk is like, I'm not freaking moving, so whoever comes, he's like, yeah, you go over there, buddy, I'm on the left side.
Yeah, and then that discourages players from wanting to come in and fight for that spot against Virgil van Dijk, because you're not going to win that battle unless he goes down, knock on every fucking piece of wood around him, unless he goes down again. So, yeah, it's a really comforting thing to see, because we were worried for a bit that if we never got to see, and it wasn't physically and athletically the same Van Dijk, because I think we all understood that there was going to be a part to his game that we were never going to see again, just because of age and injury related things. But there were moments of, does he even still have the confidence and the composure to continue playing at this level? And I think if that was something that we never saw then we'd be a lot more worried. But like we're talking about, we see that, and it's appreciated because I mean, there's many players who go down at 28, 29 years old, whatever it was, with that kind of injury, and you never see them again because they feel they're just mentally they're done. You don't have enough to come back. Like I twist my ankle and I don't want to play for several months because I don't want to twist it again, right? So, and I'm 31, so it's just like it's a really, I think, an admirable thing. This goes to just any player that has a huge injury like that, at whatever rate. I think it's an admirable thing to come back because it does take a lot mentally. I think we sometimes forget what it takes to come back from such an injury like that. And I think we're not talking about him right now, but Luis Diaz, I think part of what happened with his knee might be hindering part of his game. I think we saw this last week when he took that little knock against Burnley, like almost flashbacks in his head of hurting that knee again and being like almost scared shitless that he's done again. And I think something like that, it just boils over and gets into your head. And if you can't get past that hump, then you're stuck. And I hope that that's not what we see with him, but it's a bit of an alarming thing, and on his side of things.
And I think that changes from player to player too. I mean, you could see in Van Dijk that he felt, oh, it's going to come back, because watching it was difficult, right? Dude, you're not the same guy anymore. Like, you got to adjust, kind of a thing. But he almost was like, it's coming. Don't worry about it. And it did. I mean, obviously, that's kind of like confidence in his work ethic, because a lot goes into, like, people think it's just a matter of time. Like, you set your calendar and then come January, I'll be back and I'll be healthy. There's a lot of work that goes into coming back healthy, coming back stronger, and rebuilding your confidence. And kind of like, I mean, they're all human. You are afraid, and this is your livelihood, and B, what you do for a living. I mean, if you're constantly typing, and one hand is broken now that you can't do anything with it, I mean, it's going to affect everything you do. So now you're afraid with anything you do with that hand, because you don't want to break it again, because you can't do what you do for your life. I mean, basically, like, this is their life. So it's kind of like, that's why psychology has become such a big part of the rehab process. I think it is. I mean, we talk about, I remember, like, I listened to Ox talk about, like, being injured. Actually, I listened to Brewster talking about being injured and being out so long, and how important it was to have Ox with him. So maybe that's why we're keeping Thiago around, for psychology, for percentage. Whoever is injured is like, bro, I've been here. So here's how it goes. Like, they bring the breakfast at 10 o'clock. So
this is why I keep getting injured, because it feels like a hotel. You never have to leave. They just bring everything over to you.
This is the life in this room. Like, so it is a huge part of the game, and it's difficult to come back the way you went out. So, like, a huge, I guess, credit goes to those players, and sometimes it's their body too. I mean, some players, I mean, look at Ox, man. I mean, the dude just can't stay healthy. You can call it luck. You can call it maybe like genetics. Work ethic. I don't know what it is. I think it's different. Sometimes you can have all the work ethic in the world. If your body is not responding, it is what it is. But I can't believe you said you're 31, by the way. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Are you surprised?
I mean, actually, to be honest, I am surprised. I thought you were late 20s. So maybe.
Well, thank you.
So maybe you're not as young as I thought, but
not a day over 29.
At the same time, you are still a freaking baby, because I'm hitting the big 5-0 this year in 2024.
Ooh, that's a big thing to look for.
And this freaking near in more ways than one. Speaking of New Year's Eve, I know you lied and said you go to bed at 11, but what kind of like a Polish bash is awaiting you?
Honestly, we don't. Michelle and I have fallen asleep before midnight the last couple of years. We just lay in bed.
Yourself young?
No, I don't actually. You did. I didn't. I never call myself young. I think she has some family in from Poland for this week, so we're gonna actually go to downtown Chicago, a couple hours away, and have a dinner New Year's Eve.
Pick up the picnic baskets.
Yeah, exactly. A couple blankets, might be cold outside. So yeah, it's So we're going out for dinner, and then I think we're gonna watch the fireworks from somewhere in the city. I don't quite know.
Sounds like a well-planned event, or as like kind of like us. The planning is done by the better half.
Yes,
So you just show up.
I just nod my head and go, yes. Now where? I'm there.
So how big is, I mean, obviously, see, like back home, since there's no Christmas technically, I mean, not technically, officially, I guess, too, because it's like, like a predominantly Muslim country. The New Year's Eve is like the big thing in Turkey. That's when people exchange gifts and stuff like that. How big is it in like, is it like a huge thing in Poland, or the Christmas? Because I feel like over here, Christmas kind of takes away, obviously, the glory of it, because, or maybe the gift giving is the glory of it. Like you say, like back home, you do that on like New Year's Eve.
I think Christmas Eve is the biggest day of the year for Polish people, followed by Easter, and then New Year's.
Really?
That's probably how I would rank it. New Year's, it's a really big celebration. Obviously, it is for most countries, right? Like you're not gonna be mourning coming into the new year. You're gonna be celebrating, but it's definitely they like to party, but it's not quite to the levels of Christmas Eve. It's sort of like Christmas Eve is here, like at 1, and then the next closest one would be like 7 or 8. It's not like 1 and 2. Christmas Eve
really?
Is just biggest day of the year.
See, that's like interesting. I wonder, by the way, we should like Google this, if there's a tribe out there somewhere that's mourning New Year's Eve. It's like they're mourning.
Don't come.
They're like burning the calendars and watching and crying. Being married to an introvert, I'll be at home, says Brian. So we're actually traveling. I don't know how we lined this up. I think the flight was cheaper, so that's probably the biggest reason. But we'll be in Vegas next week. So we're actually flying in the crack of dawn, like 6 o'clock or something like that on New Year's Day. So we'll probably be the only bozos at the airport, first of all. Or it's going to be a bunch of people with hangovers coming straight from the party to the airport. Yeah. So yeah, more usually you kind of struggle to make it to midnights recently. Just watch and make fun of things on TV or whatever. When the girls were younger, obviously you did stuff as a family, but now most young people go to parties, Matush. I know you kind of like those days have passed you now, but most of these young kids go. Parties they're aware of, by the way. I've been pushing the whole stay home and do a New Year's ham the last few years. Oh, that's a good one. Obviously, you're packing picnic baskets over there, but what is the New Year's thing? What's on the menu? Do you have something from the Polish Turkish restaurants? What do we got going?
Oh, I don't know. Where
are you talking about? Is Michelle back there? Can we get her on? Because she seems to know the plan a lot better.
I locked her in the bedroom. I don't know. I have no access to her right now. Shit. I thought you were asking about resolutions and not food. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just know we're going to dinner. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So awkward. I'm so awkward. 2 days from now has no idea what's gonna happen. You know what? That's good though. That's the married life.
Like
when somebody makes the game plan for you, you just go and play.
Here's the thing. I don't have a palate. I will eat everything. There's nothing to me that doesn't necessarily taste good. I typically enjoy everything. So I don't really need to know where we're going because I know there's going to be something that I'm going to enjoy.
Celery.
Great.
Really? Ugh.
Yeah, you can dip it in. You can dip it in ranch or peanut butter.
Ugh, you can just dip it in the garbage can and just never take it out. Broccoli.
Every week with my lunches.
Jesus Christ. Those were the top of the list over there. I need help over here.
That's your hated list right there.
I will not eat.
Do you not like broccoli and celery?
I can sense the slightest human suffering. If something has celery in it, I will sense it a mile away.
Should we switch ages? Like, what's going on?
What is that supposed to mean? Old people eat celery?
Yeah.
What the fuck was that? Once you're over 40, baby, it's celery every meal. Like, I don't understand the correlation over there. Okay, I mean,
it's easy to eat without teeth.
About, for example, in most places, I get, if you get Bloody Mary, people use celery salt, which is disgusting, and I can sense that the celery salt is in there. So in our homemade
Interesting.
Bloody Marys, which
Yeah.
Jasmine is a huge Bloody Mary person now too. There shall be no celery
I
involved.
always have celery at the house.
Beets.
Yes, especially beet soup. That's what we had for
Oh God, no
Christmas
way!
Eve. Yeah.
Pickle beets, I'd be all for. But beet soup, like hot beets.
hmm hmm
Yeah, you do have no palate. I mean, Brian says I will smoke some type of meat. No shits.
But
If
we'll
you're in
get
our
we'll get
Discord,
pictures. It's cool. You guys, if you're not part of the Discord, you should join, and you can see pictures of Brian's meat.
Philip says cheeky for me. I mean, I don't know. You guys find something. There has to be something this guy does not like.
Dude, I drink Malort. There's not going to be much that
The bar is
you're not
so
going to
low.
find anything.
Okay, that's gonna be our next challenge for the new year. I mean, there has to be something, right? Fruits are. I mean,
I'm trying to think.
I dug to the bottom of the barrel of vegetables, man, and you passed that test. Okay, let's go to weird meats.
Okay, but what's a weird meat? Because in Poland we have what's called galaretka, and it's pretty much meat in like a meat jelly. It's refrigerated in lard, and there's peas and carrots and meat in it, and then you put vinegar on top of it when you're eating it.
So there's torture is still in Poland. Like they did not the convention, the Geneva Convention did not make it over there. Or what?
Can't knock it till you try. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, like I don't know. Like in Turkey, there's like weird things like brain.
I don't think I've had brain, so I can't say. I will anything that I haven't tried. I can't say whether I like it or not because that's not fair because I haven't tried it.
Like because I know in like when we went back home, what is the other one? It's called kokoreç in Turkish. It's basically the large intestine. So when we went home with the wifey, I was like trying to sucker her to eat some weird stuff because she's not anymore. She used to be extremely picky. So if I tell her what it is, she's not going to eat it. So we went somewhere and they had like fried oysters and stuff. Obviously, I knew she was going to love that, and she got that. And I had like this kokoreç thing, which is basically the large intestine, ultimately, but it's delicious. And then they like just chop it up and they put it in like a bread. It's like a sandwich or whatever. And so I had her taste that, and she was like, "Oh, that's really good. What is that?" And I was like, "Ding, ding, ding! It's like large intestine. You are the winner," kind of thing. So we go to another restaurant. I'm like, maybe I can get her to eat brain, and without her knowing, if they brought it in some kind of a salad format, I think it would have worked. So we ordered it. And the dude brought a plate where, like, literally there were like two brains sitting on it. Like, there was no debating what it was. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! I saw that face. I saw that face. I think we have found something.
It's but I haven't tried it yet. But I can understand the shock of looking at it and going, "That's a fucking brain."
So yeah, she just looked at it. She was like, no. I'm like, damn it. Couldn't like sucker her to eat that. Brian says not a fan of organ meats. Ultimately, they're all. I mean, you would think, oh my god, yeah, no freaking way. I like how you guys put the parsley in there. Oh, and Angie is never plating. Who has never commented.
Oh my god, we've summoned her.
We have summoned her. She's like, brains, I'm there, dude. Okay, what the hell is that thing?
I told you it's Polish meat jelly.
Okay, I can speak on behalf of Angie because the whole texture I can already tell, and the presence of peas is totally gonna be a downer. She might be saying it's disgusting to that.
I love it. I love it. You throw some vinegar on it, and it's perfect.
Oh, you just made it even worse for Angie somehow. Okay, but you don't know the menu. Normally, we actually do like tapas for New Year's Eve.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But knowing it's going to be pretty much just me and Ange now, and we're going to be flying in like 3-4 hours. I don't even know what the hell we're doing, to be honest. We did the tapas like Christmas Eve instead and stuff like that. But it should be interesting. I'm more looking forward to traveling and going to Vegas the next day. Total looks like the 60s gelatin cookbook says.
Polish cuisine hasn't evolved in centuries. I don't know what you expect from us.
I mean, that's a cuisine. That's why it's a cuisine, though, right? Like, I don't think Turkish cuisine has. Like, I sometimes see something in like a Turkish, like a cooking channel, and they're making salmon and stuff, and I was like, dude, that was never a thing. Like, so
Yeah.
that's now you're like, that was
Hawkins dish
never a
out
thing.
here.
So yeah, that is not Turkish. Nice try though, kind of an ordeal. But okay. Any parting thoughts for 2023 as we wrap up the year here on American Scousers Reckless Friday with the Grumpy Monday crew?
I did make it a little reckless with some of my food
Tell
choices,
you
I will
what,
say.
that thing and adding vinegars on top of that
That's
is
fucking
beyond
reckless.
reckless.
2023. Thank you for being another year and excited for next year. That's my parting
Spoken like
thought.
an old man. Spoken like an old man. But hey, as always, thanks to all. Thanks for an excellent year. Thanks to Liverpool for an extra season. Special season so far. Let's hope it ends that way. And yeah, both for American Scouser and everybody involved here. Thanks a lot for your guys' support in 2023. More to come in 2024. Join the gang. Have an excellent New Year's Eve. I'll see you suckers and on January 8th with the Grumpy Monday. We'll be back. I'll be back with Mateusz, but life moves on. Obviously, there's going to be all kinds of shows on American Scouts for next week, just not the morning coffee with Reckless Coffee Roasters. So thanks to Reckless Coffee Roasters as well. They joined the crew this year as a sponsor for the morning show, and have an excellent week. Excellence. Hold on, I got to bring the dad joke too. Like, I'll see you guys next year. Hold on.
Hey.
Yeah, there you go. I'll see you guys next year. Have a great weekend, everybody. Great New Year.